This is the Ecommerce Braintrust, a podcast about building momentum online for established consumer brands. Join our hosts and their expert guests for high-level conversations about e-commerce strategies, trends, and innovations. Access our Braintrust and boost your brand's e-commerce potential.
Hello and welcome back to the show. I am Kiri Masters, one of your co-hosts here at the Ecommerce Braintrust podcast, and I'm truly excited, not just saying that, because this week my book, The Amazon Expansion Plan, is back on Amazon, on Kindle, and in hardback this time as well, or paperback I should say, and it's the first update that I've made to this book since I first published it in 2016. So a lot has changed since I published this book in 2016, and it's been on my to-do list for basically 2 weeks since I published that book when Amazon started making changes. It's been on my to-do list to update it for a long time, and this week is finally the week that the fresh, updated 2018 version is live. So I'll tell you a little bit about my updates here because, as you can imagine, within less than 2 years, there were a lot of updates to make here. And I think it would be interesting to take you through a few of those themes that really emerged while I was putting this update together. So I'm going to talk through the themes in general, what else the book includes, a couple of tidbits from it to make it worth your while to continue listening through to this episode. It's not just going to be a giant sales pitch, I promise. And I'll also let you know that this week, if you're listening to this podcast as it airs in the week of June 25th, the book will be available for free as a Kindle version, and we'll have the paperback version available this week as well. So I'll be honest, updating this book in 2018 was almost as much work as when I first put it together in 2016. There's been a lot of new programs, policy changes, and changes in our best practices at BOBSLED marketing that I had to refresh and update. So a few themes emerged, and the first one is around Vendor Express closing and the hybrid selling model emerging as a viable option for vendors. So let me explain what those two terms mean in case you're not familiar with them. Vendor Express was this halfway house between Seller Central and Vendor Central. And from my personal perspective, it was really the worst of both worlds of selling as a marketplace seller and selling as a vendor. It was a streamlined, fully automated platform for vendors where Amazon's bots would either accept would give you a price for what they wanted to purchase your inventory at. It was completely automated. There was no human intervention. So if you got a weird price back from Amazon's algorithm, which they didn't give any insight into how wholesale prices were calculated, there was no one to complain to. If they gave you a really bad price, then you didn't have any option. There was no recourse. There was no way to get those products listed on Amazon if you were only using Vendor Express. The upsides were you got access to some tools that weren't available to third-party sellers at the time, things like A+ content, which is more visually enhanced content that you can use on your product detail pages, and also access to AMS, which is one of Amazon's advertising platform. But since then, a lot of those features like A+ pages and the AMS campaigns that weren't available in Seller Central have actually been made available to sellers. So there's less of a benefit now of being a vendor if you're just looking at some of those programs that were available exclusively to vendors. And they finally closed that program. The message from a marketing standpoint was that they're streamlining their platforms and inviting all of the brands selling on Vendor Express to the marketplace. So I, for one, am glad to see the back of Vendor Express. I didn't like it. I thought it was very limiting and not the best selling experience for many brands. So they cut it and they're migrating everyone off. At the same time, a lot of brands that were selling on a wholesale basis to Amazon through Vendor Central are finding out about Seller Central and the marketplace and realizing, hey, being a seller sounds pretty good. I get control over my pricing. I get control over my detail pages. I can have kind of a more direct relationship with the customer, like I can actually contact them if I need to. And not in all cases, but in many cases, the margin is a lot better. So a lot of these brands that have historically been vendor central users and selling to Amazon on a wholesale basis are recognizing that the marketplace could offer some benefits, and they are setting up a Seller Central account and either splitting their inventory across both accounts, because in some cases, especially with lower priced products, selling on Vendor Central is actually a lot better, or they're strategically using a Seller Central account to launch new products if then the vendor team is not picking up their new products. So there's a variety of different use cases for when a vendor would want to open a Seller Central account. We've actually covered it in a previous podcast episode that we'll link up to in the show notes. But this was not so much of a theme at the time when I first wrote the book in 2016. And this year especially, we're seeing at BOBSLED Marketing a lot of inquiries from vendors saying that they're frustrated with the vendor program, or their vendor manager has gone and no one's replaced them. Or they're just interested to know, is this Seller Central marketplace model actually a good option for my brand? The second major theme that has emerged with updating this book is that advertising, and pay-per-click advertising specifically, is a significant driver of revenue for brands and, of course, for Amazon. So in the 2016 edition of the book, I did, of course, talk about PPC advertising on Amazon, the different types of campaigns, acknowledging that paid traffic can even boost organic marketing efforts on Amazon. But today, in this new edition of the book that's going out this week, I paid a lot more attention to Amazon as a core tenet of any legitimate Amazon channel marketing strategy. So today, Amazon has a lot more of a sophisticated advertising platform. I think on the surface, especially when you compare it to Google AdWords or Facebook advertising, there are less targeting options for sure. You still don't have the ability to do remarketing on Amazon yet. I feel like that is a change that's going to come maybe the day after this book goes live again. But Amazon has been really investing in their advertising technology and rolling out lots of features and tools to address brands' needs selling on Amazon. And I think Amazon themselves, pretty clear through their hiring of many, many more employees for their advertising division, that they see advertising as a huge revenue driver because it makes them money twice. They get the ad revenue and they also get a bump in sales if their brands actually know what they're doing. So both on the PPC side of things, pay-per-click, performance marketing advertising, and on the display advertising side of things, which is Amazon advertising platform, where you can actually remarket to customers and you can follow them around the web and use Amazon's audience targeting tools and sophisticated things like that, which are built for larger brands that have brand marketing budgets. That is a very, very fast growing area of Amazon's P&L, and they're investing a ton of money into those systems and to working with agencies like us and reaching out directly to brands. A lot of our clients at BOBSLED Marketing have, for better or worse, had direct experiences with Amazon Media Group and their team reaching out to brands and offering this service to them. In positive scenarios, I think brands see the value in the very specific type of targeting that Amazon's media group can bring to a brand, and the fact that you can actually target specifically Amazon customers which are in market, which meet certain lifestyle segment goals, that viewed your products on Amazon, that viewed competing products on Amazon. There's no other way to target an audience that way except through Amazon's media group. But on the flip side, I think a lot of brands that have been advertising with Amazon PPC don't understand that display advertising is an awareness play and a branding play. And if they're used to the great returns that they can see with Amazon PPC, they become very disappointed when they're seeing an ACOS with Amazon's display advertising network of 100% or more, because it's really not a vehicle for getting a direct return on investment. The third theme that emerged during the update of this book is that brand protection is more important than ever. So the act of selling products on Amazon has, for better or worse, become a new business model for entrepreneurial types almost overnight. And if you're listening to this podcast, undoubtedly you've come across a lot of content and courses and gurus and people like that and sites like that that are invested in helping people to establish products on Amazon and grow, and that selling products on Amazon is a viable income stream. So for better or worse, that means that there's more competition on Amazon, and there's also the attention of bad actors has been captured because, frankly, the barrier to entry of selling on Amazon is pretty low. You don't need to establish your identity, really. You don't need to provide a whole lot of history about yourself or the company for Amazon to know that you're a legitimate entity that's actually going to ship orders when you get them. So by making the system fairly open, Amazon has been able to grow very rapidly, get lots of new brands and sellers on the platform, which in theory increases selection and increases price competition. So that's the whole game that they've played with the marketplace. But it does mean for companies on Amazon legitimately trying to grow their brand and sell products and use it as a viable sales channel, they're seeing a lot of competition come in from fly-by-night companies or individuals, in some cases trying to defraud other companies and customers. So there's some black hat activity going on, competitors leaving fake reviews, getting fake reviews written of their own, like the product review ecosystem is in a huge mess because people rely so much on product reviews for purchasing decisions. Reviews have become this commodity that are being traded and Amazon understands the problem and they're trying to get their arms around it, but it's so pervasive. That's one problem. And then just the ability for some other entity to jump on your listing and say that they have inventory available, whether they do or not, whether it's genuine inventory or counterfeit inventory, or finally, if they have obtained genuine inventory from a distributor, but they're knocking down your price or trying to change your product detail page so that the information there is erroneous and not indicative of the product or your brand. So many issues with brand protection and brands being able to get their arms around who's selling their products, what they're saying, what price they're listing them for, is the product genuine or potentially counterfeit. So there's a lot of things that Amazon is doing in this area to clean up the system. As an aside, they have a new program called Transparency, which is being rolled out to sellers and vendors where brand can have this, it's almost like a QR code, but each product is labeled with a unique QR code, and these codes are affixed to each unit of inventory. And when inventory arrives at Amazon's fulfillment centers, if they scan them and they're not the right code, or the product arrives without a code, then it will be rejected at the fulfillment center. And then likewise, also customers can scan that code using the Amazon app and see where the inventory came from and that it's genuine, and see kind of more details into the supply chain. So this is one initiative that Amazon has been testing, at least over the last year, to see if they can wrap their arms around the issue of counterfeit inventory. So they are really trying to get ahead of this, but the rate at which bad actors come into the system and defraud customers and mess around with brands has more momentum than the pace that they're able to move at. So these are just 3 themes that I found in updating this book. So now that I've given you an idea of what's changed since I wrote the book, I may as well just give you a quick idea of what is included in the book and what the contents are. So this book is really meant to be a tour of the Amazon ecosystem, the various ways of selling on Amazon, and the first couple of chapters, if your brand is already on Amazon and you kind of know what you're doing, you probably want to skip through that. because we really talk about what the different models of selling on Amazon are. So Seller Central, Vendor Central, the hybrid model, and then some ideas about what kind of situation you're in, if you're a startup or an established branded manufacturer, what kind of model you should be looking at with Amazon. Chapter 3 is about selling on Amazon compared to traditional retail. And when I say traditional retail, that could be selling to brick and mortar stores. It can also include, because we are in 2018, selling direct to consumers on your e-commerce site. So how does Amazon compare with that? And across a few different dimensions, control of your brand, marketing capabilities, things like that. Chapter 4 and 5 are centered around logistical questions for getting started and around operations and customer support. And so this is something that at BOBSLED Marketing, although we are a marketing agency and we do marketing and advertising, one of the things that we really focus on as an agency, and we have right from the very beginning, is around operational excellence and helping brands understand the Amazon platform, not just about how to get more sales by making product pages look really good or running a more efficient ad campaign, but the whole foundation of Amazon is having products available that people want at a good price. And if you don't have your operational house in order, you're not going to have inventory available to sell, or your products aren't going to be eligible to buy or advertise. And all of those operational hygiene factors really impact whether you're going to have products available to market and advertise. So we really get into a lot of detail in these chapters here around managing customer expectations, things like A to Z claims, responding to product reviews, responding to feedback, and making sure that you really understand all the different elements at play that might unwind your business if you don't understand how the system works. Chapter 6 is about marketing your Amazon store, how the search algorithm works, how things like conversion, product reviews, sales history all contribute to the search algorithm, what's important and what's not, product listing, optimization, so copy, product imagery, product reviews, which are always a hot topic, how to get them within Amazon's terms of service, what not to do. It always amazes me when I talk with brands that the concept of getting friends and family to write reviews is probably not the greatest idea. But these are all things that frankly seem really obvious to me after doing this for 3 years. But these are genuine questions that people still have about how Amazon works and what's a good idea and what isn't. Then when we get through to chapter 7, I'm talking about paid search advertising on Amazon. This is the whole PPC chapter that I mentioned before. How much to spend on Amazon PPC? What kind of rules? What kind of return on ad spend is acceptable and what is not? The different types of paid search placements on Amazon and how to get started. Throughout the rest of the book, I'm also talking about best practices and general know-how, so things like how the buy box works, how to improve your seller rating to increase buy box frequency, seasonal sales events and holidays, and how to prepare for things like Prime Day, which is coming right up, how to prepare for Q4, key dates in the promotional calendar. And then finally, in chapter 8 through 10, I'm talking about how to expand internationally with Amazon. Throughout the book, I really set the expectation here that expanding into international territories, it's an exciting thing to think about for many brands because we're in a global economy. Everyone's heard from those pesky Australians who are complaining that they can't get your product where they live, or people in Canada or people in Germany. So we're in a global economy. People expect to be able to buy products in their own market, and brands hear a lot from customers in international markets that want to find their product locally. One point that I bring up to manage expectations here is if your brand is not fully optimized in the US and you've taken your product assortment and product page optimization and your PPC campaigns and every lever that you have available on Amazon to make that a strong channel in the US market, that it's not yet worth going to the international markets. if you're a US company or the US is a target market for you, then you want to do your very best to maximize the potential of that market before exploring others. Because as you'll see from what I lay out in the book in excruciating detail, is import requirements, compliance, both product compliance and taxation. Amazon is, particularly in the EU, now requiring to see all of your documentation, your VAT number, checking that you are compliant before allowing you to sell on Amazon in the EU. So there is a lot of compliance, logistics, paperwork required to set up in international territories. So it's certainly a great way to boost sales once you're fully optimized in your own country of origin or your main market. But if I haven't belabored the point enough, I think that the reason why these chapters come towards the end of the book is that they are opportunities to consider later on in your journey. And then what are the other growth opportunities with Amazon? What to do next? How to actually start putting things into practice. So obviously read and written and produced a lot of content about Amazon over the years. This is really foundational book, I think, and it can be helpful for people at any stage, really. I think that even if you are well established on Amazon as a brand, there's still takeaways from here that you can pick up. It is genuinely a very comprehensive overview of the Amazon system. If you didn't buy it in 2016 or at some point over the last 2 years, I really encourage you to go on Amazon.com and pick it up for free this week. It's available on Kindle and paperback now, and I hope you check it out. You can find it on Amazon if you search for the Amazon expansion plan or my name, Kiri Masters, or if you go to theamazonexpansionplan.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next week.